How's the hair?
Looking very nice.
Good?
Very luscious.
We're good? Yeah, that's all right. That's it. This is the money shot right here. Yeah?
Money
This is where the money is made. Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma. We are bringing you a episode... Oh no, I'm going to start again.
Okay,
I skipped ahead and then went back on myself. We'll do that again.
Start again. Yeah. Right, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, the founder of RecTools.io. RecTools is the UK's largest whole-of-market directory for recruitment suppliers. If you are a recruitment business or looking to start a recruitment business and you're interested in finding out about investors and sort of startup incubator models and different suppliers within that space, I suggest that you go to RecTools.io, and over here somewhere you'll probably see the category dedicated to investment and startup. My guest today is somewhat of a legend in the recruitment world. He's the former group CEO of Recruitment Entrepreneur, currently sits as a non-exec director on a range of international recruitment businesses. Welcome to the show today, Abid.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for making the journey. It's been one we've been trying to get into the diary a while now.
I know, it's my fault. I know.
You're a
you
busy
don't have
man,
to rub it in.
Yes, it is what it is. But hey, you're here now, so I'm going to make the most of the 45 minutes or so that I've got with you. Look, I think the obvious thing to talk about really is a lot of our listeners inquire a lot about things like growing and scaling a business and exiting a business. Considering the fact that most of these guys are historically just really good recruitment consultants and not really good business people, can you give us a breakdown as to kind of what is the concept behind growing, scaling, and then exiting a business? Why is that so important to us in recruitment?
It's not just a recruitment thing. It's any business, right? Why do you get into business? You get into business, you want to have your own autonomy, you want to make money, you want to kind of leave something behind, create something. And if you look at recruitment as a whole, recruitment companies generally get to 10, 12, maybe 15, 20 people, and then they kind of go up and down from there. Because when you have a small business, it's a very personal exercise. Everybody sits in a room, you know them all, you know their dog, you know their wife, it's all very personalized. As you grow, that personalization kind of moves away. And you need processes, you need procedures, it's a little bit more detached, a little bit more arm's length. And that's more of an experience and a skill set. It's different from just pure talent.
Yeah.
Right? Pure talent, I can go and sit down somewhere and make money. Right? And I get like-minded people around me, they learn from me, and I create this business. But to then take that and scale it is a different matrix. It's a different set of skill sets. I mean, my first bit is not everybody needs to grow a business. Not everybody needs to scale a business. It seems like a good idea. It seems like, everybody should do it. But actually, why? The first question I always ask somebody is, why? You're happy, you're making money, you got a nice team, you got great clients. Why do you want to do it?
Yeah. You asked me that.
Yeah, why? And if you can't answer the why, it's very, very difficult, because the what's really easy when you know the why, right? So a lot of people do it because there's some kind of, there's a kudos around having built a business, scaled it, and exited it. Exit's a completely different ballgame, but scaling a business is not for everyone. Not everyone should do it. That'd be my advice. But if you're really genuinely interested in doing it, then scale is something that is boring, right? It's kind of process, procedures, matrix, KPIs, and building something that has sustainability outside of just the entrepreneur, right? So one of the things that if you were ever selling your business is concentration risk. It's not just about profitability. So, if classic recruitment company, you got 10 recruiters, but basically 2 of them drive the business. They're the biggest billers. If you were trying to sell that business, it become very difficult, because any buyer would look at it and go, well, if one of those goes, that's 25% of my billings.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, it's not for everyone. And if you want to look at grow, you should grow anyway, but scale and exit, two very, very different exercises, and you need to answer the why.
Okay, no, that's fair. I think. Do you think that then feeds into the statistics? So we saw some statistics banded around on LinkedIn not long ago, and it's something like less than 3% of businesses actually go through with a sale or exit.
Oh, I think it's even less than that.
Really?
I think it's probably 1-2%.
Okay.
Right? Because an exit's a very different exercise. An exit, when someone's buying a business, the classic example is you've got your EBIT and they do a multiple of the EBIT. But that's only one portion of what they're looking at. They're looking at all the other bits. And the buyers vary. Why am I buying the business would change the exit model. So if I want to come into the UK and I want a footprint, I'd just buy a recruitment business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if I'm looking to build a business that's going to make me money, then I need to see growth in it. Right? So I'm not going to pay you 10 quid for something which is going to give me 10 quid back. I'm going to give you 10 quid because I want 20 quid back.
Yeah.
Right? So an exit is a lot more complicated because you've got various aspects of your business that need to be in tune for a buyer to write you a decent check, right? Because there's a risk factor for them. Our assets walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 5:30 in the evening, and hopefully they're going to come back at 8:30 in the morning. One of those assets leaves, that's a portion of your business has walked out.
Yeah, it can be, as you said, a big
It's people
portion of the
business, right?
Yeah.
And that's why scale helps with exiting because it de-risks that. 10 people or 30 people, it's a very simple matrix.
No, that's fair.
So yeah.
So one of the questions we get a lot then is around, and a lot of the guys that we've had from the invoice factoring world have always said the same thing, right? A temp business is a lot easier to sell than a perm heavy business, right? Based on kind of retained revenue and that kind of thing. What are your views on that? Should an aspiring business owner who is looking at growth and sale as a possibility down the line, should they be focusing on pure temp, a combination of both?
Combination of both for sure. Pure temp, today's temp margins pretty tight. Not a lot of money in it. If you had, this is the nirvana of recruitment. All your costs are paid by your contractor or your temp book, and your perm makes you all the juicy profit. Yeah. That's the nuts and bolts of it. Is it right? Is it wrong? We sold a purely retained search business to at RE to ZRG, which are an American search firm, with 16 people in it for 10 million quid. Okay. But there you had a really good perm business which was consistent for 5 years, consistently showing delivery, unbelievable leadership, great client bank, tied contracts, exclusivity, and they still had more to go. So they were a fantastic buy for ZRG. So it's not that people don't want to buy perm businesses. Of course they buy perm businesses, but you then have to create that perm business which gives somebody the stability and de-risks the purchase, right? So there are a lot of things like, if I'm going to buy a business today, first thing I'm going to ask you is, okay, so what's your budget for next year? And you're obviously going to give me this nice, beautiful hockey stick, right? Because, we're going to do these fantastic things. And I'm like, oh, great. Yeah. So show me the last time you said you were going to do something and you did it. Yeah. Well, you can't. Because you haven't got any board packs, you haven't got any documentation of it.
You're not operating like a business that's
so
ready to
if
be
you
sold,
had those, for example, if I was buying a business that had board packs, I'd dip test the board pack. I'd go into a February board pack and go, right, oh yeah, you said you were having these issues in February, and these were the solutions you'd proposed. So in June, I'll have a look at the board pack and see if it's been done or not. If it has, kind of takes that risk away, right? Yeah. I said, look, for the last 4 years, I've said I'm going to do something. I've done it. Now we're telling you we're going to do that. Why do you disbelieve it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you need to those kinds of things a small business won't do. if you don't know what an exit takes, you won't prepare those things. At the same time, if you didn't, right now you're talking then about me going, well, you know what? I tell you what, I'll chip you a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're chipping somebody when you're buying a business, which is who you're going to do, that could be a very costly affair. That could be 200 grand. It could be 2 million quid, just because you weren't prepared to do it. So people buy a business for what they're going to do in the future based on their past performance.
Okay.
Right.
No, makes sense. Makes sense. So taking it back to then your days at Recruitment Entrepreneur, what was your guys' vision for business owners like myself when we met and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's because it sounds very much like there's an element of CEO coaching there as well, right?
Yeah.
Am I right in assuming you're expecting these guys to no longer be active billing consultants?
No.
Running their business, from the ground with the team in the weeds.
No. Every single one of the CEOs built.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. In addition to then all
their other stuff. Right. But the business model of RE was very simple. It was a platform that allowed people to come in and not worry about the things that they're not very good at. Finance, marketing, banking, all the nuts and bolts that make a business. And then the ability to grow them and create a plan where they could scale, plan where they could exit. So we started, whether it was a one-man business or a 10-man business, we started always with them as if they were going to exit in 3 to 5 years. So that means they'd have a board pack day one, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. 2-man business, what the hell, what are we doing? But actually, as you go...
It's putting the fundamental building blocks down, though, isn't
absolutely.
it? One of the things that... there's a lot of things I kind of regret and wish we'd done differently with my recruitment business, but absolutely one of the things was exactly that.
Yeah.
Having board meetings, proper structured board meetings where we could sit and agree actions and hold each other to account, even though at the time it was just the two of us that then grew into 10, 15 staff.
Sure. I mean, look, that's just one element. I mean, I've mentioned the board pack twice. Don't get hooked up on it. I mean, it doesn't have to be the board pack.
Get a board pack. You're fucked.
But you're screwed. Yeah, that's it. End of story. But there's also an education piece, because you get that education of suddenly somebody kind of guiding you through it and saying, well, do you actually understand the difference between, GP to EBIT? What is your GP to EBIT conversion? Why does it mean anything? What is your payout ratio? Do you actually know what it means? And what the purpose of that exercise is? Do you know the break even of your business? You'll be surprised. There'll be 20 people, and I can sit them down and say, what's the break even of your business right now? And they'll be like, I think it's roughly what? How can it be roughly?
How do you work a break even on roughly?
Yeah, so it's just that teaching of those disciplines at the start. And then, of course, you can then start to have a lot more interesting financial conversations about educating them to be business people effectively. That was kind of the model. The model was release the pressure from these entrepreneurs so that they could go and grow their business with an infrastructure around it that supported that, but they learned each piece of that jigsaw.
Okay.
So at one point they would be able to sit opposite somebody and kind of take them through their P&L, take them through their balance sheet, talk cash flows, all that stuff, which basically recruiters like, what? What's the balance sheet? So there was.
I can tell you how many calls I made this week.
I can tell you what my KPIs are. But So you're absolutely right. There was a huge element of coaching in it. Yeah.
How do you think then post-COVID, the sort of the market and the attitudes towards this sort of world have changed? Because I noticed that Recruitment Entrepreneur have also gone down the route of kind of almost incubating lifestyle businesses, right? There is a business model dedicated to that. Now, was that just to catch the kind of the drifters who maybe start off as
the Reflex model was based on a very simple exercise. We were meeting loads and loads of really, really good guys, but they didn't want to build a business. And we were thinking, well, that's a bit of a waste. He's a bloody good guy. He's really good. He really likes, but all he wanted was, or she wanted was, infrastructure.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, we're missing a trick here. So we created Reflex, where it leveraged off the infrastructure that we're providing for the main portfolio, for these singular lifestyle businesses that could kind of
easily going to do $500,000 to $1 million.
Could be even 300 grand, but they weren't interested in scaling. They weren't interested in employing people. They weren't interested in exiting. They just wanted kind of have a good lifestyle, good recruitment, but they didn't want to worry about their accounting, banking, or marketing.
So that was an adaptation to the market then, right? So you guys obviously, or was this an increase in those inquiries that you noticed, or was it just that you were like, we're ignoring this market?
It was just I mean, that market always existed. We just were. I mean, we were so focused on looking at businesses that we could scale and exit that we completely ignored them. And then we kind of had a bit of an epiphany and thought, that's crazy, we could make money out of that. So that's how it came about. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. So how important do you think in sort of going back to the growing scaling business, how important is an international global kind of recruitment model?
Oh, that's a big question, right? Because there's so many variables.
It's not bad at this.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Look, international recruitment's a completely different ballgame. Yeah. If you're a UK business, you've got all your clients in the UK, and you suddenly start doing international business, you've got to learn a lot of things, right? A lot of risk, but it's different. If you were going to go suddenly from UK to India to do business, I mean, we're talking different world, right? You've got recruitment companies in India that have 1,600 recruiters.
Okay.
Right? You're suddenly competing in a market which is 1.4 billion people. And, fifth largest economy in the world, going to be the third largest economy in the world, but culturally completely different, right? And the same, if you go to Germany or you go to Spain or the Netherlands, tough markets to get into. Should you do it? Absolutely. Are there strategies for it? Absolutely. But is it a must? No. Definitely not. I mean, it's kind of like if somebody said to me, I want to go international, the first question I would ask him is, have you mastered everything in your own space? Right? You're in Coventry. Have you done Birmingham? No. But you want to go to India.
Yeah.
Why?
What are you chasing?
Yeah. And there may be a good answer to it. The answer might be, look, I've got 5 clients just moving to India and I'm going to shirt-tail them into the market. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
If it's just I've heard this. Yeah.
So, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, I sit on the board of Auman International, which is one of the oldest EOR businesses in Europe. That's how we make our money, right? So what happens is a client sitting in, I don't know, the US, and they want to hire 4 people in Germany. They don't want to set up an entity, so what they do is they hire us, and we do a compliant employment for that individual in that market. Obviously, with remote workers, it's become huge. So, you're hiring 10 developers in Romania, and you're based in the UK.
Yeah.
Right? But you're doing it legally and you're doing it compliantly. They're not contractors, they're your employees. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of stuff, there's a lot of opportunity, but when you look at opportunity, you should look at opportunity around you first before you go and pick a battle in a space where you don't really understand it. I mean, international. I love the idea that we are a fantastic business. The recruitment, you could recruit for somebody in Mali if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. Not many businesses can do that.
No, I suppose not. No, that's fair. Okay, and so then thinking about kind of where the VC and PE world is right now with the appetites. I know in the RecTech sector, a lot of the vendors and stuff that I've spoken to who have had venture capitalists and private equity money, the focus has shifted very much so in the last sort of 18 months from kind of product and marketing and fine tuning and user generation to, will you just fucking sell the thing and start getting us some money in?
Yeah.
What do you think that's representative of? And is that representative of the entire VC space, or is that just kind of in our kind of RecTech world, do you think?
So tech's a different ballgame, right? You look at recruitment multiples, they're probably 4 to 8.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You look at tech multiples, they could be 12 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tech's a completely different ballgame. Tech is about data, right? In many ways.
Yeah, and data is the currency, isn't it?
Data is the currency that you're looking for. And, when private equity, not private equity, basically VCs got into tech, what they were looking for was fast growth, right? And then a sell. And a refinance,
kind of
or get big enough, revaluation,
again.
go again, pre-money valuations and all that kind of stuff. But what's happened is that lots and lots of business, you look at WeWorks, massive, right? Billions and billions of dollars worth of value, supposedly, but went bankrupt. Right? It wasn't making money.
No.
Right? So the issue with it is lots of people invested in lots of things, but they've forgotten one very simple exercise, which is you got to make money.
Yeah.
Where's your revenue coming from? There were lots and lots of companies, still are lots and lots of companies.
So do you think it was an element of, it's a bubble, and that bubble kind of started to burst, and therefore those in the RecTech sector have been like, look, stop tinkering with your product, stop with your patches and your updates and using our money to do that. Just sell the fucking thing now, please.
No, I think what's happened is people have kind of grown up a little bit and said, the money's great, but where's the revenue line?
Yeah, it's a sustainability factor.
It might not be profitable, but where's the revenue line?
Yeah.
But if you just have tech, so you keep developing your tech, but it never actually gets to market where it sells anything, what's the point?
Yeah, what's it worth?
Yeah. Well, the tech could be worth quite a lot of money. That's the juxtaposition, right? Because you get a tech
for it to be worth something, you need users using it, right? Which means it
could be a disruptor. It could be a disruptor, but yeah, you're right.
But by and large, you need
to show
the only way to sort of prove concept and validate an MVP is to get users utilizing the product.
Yeah.
And the only valuable way to kind of develop a tech product even further is by having users use the product and feedback.
There's that, but then there's kind of like, I'll give you an example. I recently sat on a presentation where you've got a tech product where client comes along and says, I'm looking for, let's say pen tester, right? He writes a job description, puts it on the platform. AI then tidies it up for you. You can use either option, right? You like the AI one, you press a button, it goes to an anonymous pool of candidates who are all pre-qualified, pre-tested, right? They receive the job and they go, oh, that's fantastic. I like that. They press a button and say, yes, I want to be appraised for it. Client doesn't know these guys at this point. It comes back and says, okay, this guy actually wants to do it. The tech now, if you wanted it, the client can press a thing saying, fantastic, I want this guy to do it. Sends him 20 questions. That guy does 20 question video. That video, by the way, is then assessed by AI. Right? Based on what the client's looking for, and sends him a score of the guy and the video of him answering those questions. No human being involved. Now that's a disruptor in a major way. If it all works, it's not quite working as yet, but if it did,
the tech is coming on loads, right?
Oh, massive,
I'm so glad that you brought this subject up, because AI is such a hot subject, but also such a tipping point in recruitment, because you've got some that just absolutely despise it, and it will never replace humans and all the rest of it. But absolutely, it will. A good friend of ours works in tech and is doing a load of stuff on AI and automation for the banking sector, right? Because voice validation, that kind of thing. And in just the 6 months that he's been doing the project, I've been kind of, sharing an office with him, chatting to him, blah, blah, blah. The text to speech and speech back to text has improved so much in just the 6 months.
Yeah.
And So when I sit there and say absolutely an AI can replace the job of a recruiter, of course it can. It can conduct a first stage validation. Yeah, you meet the criteria of what the client's looking for.
Yeah.
It can reach out to you via email, text, whatever your preferred method is.
Yeah.
It can authorize you as you've got right to work in the UK, blah blah blah, and it can take that candidate through a process.
Sure.
Pretty.
I mean,
effectively.
I think it's not quite there, but will it be there in the next X number of years? The answer is yes. Will it disappear? Will recruitment disappear completely? I doubt it very much.
No.
And also because still the generation of people who are hiring aren't the guys.
Yeah.
Right? But in 10 years' time or 15 years' time, the generation that are the decision makers will be a lot more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You did that with me, I'd be like, nah. I got to meet the guy. I want to see him. I want to have lunch with him.
Yeah.
Or her or whoever it is.
But everything up until that point could be done by AI.
Could be.
And validated by an AI rather than
it's like everything, right?
Recruiter, right?
You need to start to trust it. So it'll take a period of time before you get trust. When you first got, I don't know, Fitbit or any tech, you needed to kind. Or a plane.
Yeah, the first time you get on a plane.
Planes are good on. You need to trust it, and that trust factor will come over a period of time.
That's a time builder. Yeah.
Once you trust it, then you do it. But I don't think it's ready as yet. And also, we're talking about a very small portion of the world. Mm-hmm. We forget the world's a very big place. And we're talking about what we would do in let's say more developed societies, but is that going to work in some other societies? And the answer is no. Because that tech's not au fait, it still doesn't have the cultural nuances, it doesn't have all sorts of things.
Infrastructure, all that sort of, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, we're still talking about a very small portion of the world.
The more developed part and the more kind of, happy to adopt that tech, I suppose.
Well, we're more plugged into it on a daily basis, right? If we lost electricity, I think most people would go berserk. They wouldn't have an idea what to do. It's a bit like my kids asking me, say, what happened before you had mobile phones? If you phoned somebody, you were going to meet them. What happened? I said, you turned up.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell them you weren't going to be there. Yeah.
That's where the 15-minute thing come from, wasn't it? The whole we all have this thing built into us. If somebody's more than 15 minutes late, then it's like, okay, they're not coming, But you'll wait 15 minutes because that used to always be the allowance that you gave people.
Well, 15 minutes, if you have an appointment with me, you're 5 minutes late, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, being on time is late,
I find it really, literally on a Zoom call, if you're 5 minutes late, I'll be gone.
I don't think there's any excuse for that with the Zoom call thing.
I'm sure there are or not, but I can't abide it.
I think with the face-to-face, look, I'm stuck in traffic. But again, there's I can let you know ahead of time, right?
No, if you send me a text saying, listen, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But if you said we're having a chat at 10 and I turn up at 10 and you're 5 minutes late, I'll be gone.
Yeah, that's fair.
Absolutely gone.
No, I'm with you on that. Okay, so you're obviously plugged into some of the interesting stuff that's going out there at the minute. What other stuff are you able to disclose to us about kind of things that are coming up, things to look out for?
They're not there's no kind of secret bits and pieces out there. I think the biggest challenge for recruiters or the recruitment industry is remote working.
Okay.
I think that old traditional way of where you learned from people because you were sitting in the same room listening to people has kind of diluted. I think where you've got the whole sales culture piece, very difficult to kind of create when people don't really know each other. They might be meeting each other once a month or once a week or whatever. It also disengages the employee with the company.
Yeah.
Right? So there's very little engagement, and that means it's easier for them to leave.
Can I challenge all three of those points?
Of course you can, yeah.
Because, with the first piece around kind of learning from other people, we're entering into an age now firmly in Web3, right?
Yeah.
Where the older, more experienced recruiter, the senior consultants and upwards, who historically a junior consultant would learn from, they are also now learning new ways to do things with the introduction of new tech that's hitting the scene, with new ways of outreach and outbound, personal branding, marketing, and all the rest of it. So this is all new stuff for them. So it's not like you're learning something from. They're all learning at the same time, right?
But you're talking about only one element of it.
No,
right?
absolutely. But that feeds into my second point, which is sales is also changing in the consumer in general across kind of multiple sectors. But if we talk recruitment, consumers being either the candidate or the client are a lot more clued in now. The old do a reference call and get yourself a BD list. That people are clued up to it. Ask your candidate where else they're interviewing, get yourself a BD list. People are clued up to it because of the amount of information that's out there, and therefore the way to sell to these people is also changing. So
but humans haven't changed. Right?
Do you really think so?
No, absolutely. I mean, so I'll give you an example, right? I call you on the telephone and you go, hello. How do I get that from an email?
No, true.
Right?
You're assuming I'm going to answer though. I don't always answer unknown numbers.
Yeah, but that's because nobody calls you.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, that's just a very basic example, but I have nothing against modern day sales, business development, marketing, but people still buy from people, right? Mm-hmm. And if I have an email relationship with you, I really don't know you. I really don't, right? There's no real engagement between us. Until I start to talk to you, right? I'm only going to then find out who you really are, what you like, what you don't like.
No,
right?
I completely agree. But the way that conversation comes about, though.
Oh no, but you're talking about that one layer at the top of the funnel.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The one layer at the top of the funnel is now driven by marketing campaigns and all sorts of other tools that you've got. But that's okay. That was always there. You put newspaper adverts, right, in the old days. Same thing. But as you come down the funnel, understanding what the client's looking for and how you create that relationship and you close that relationship on a commercial basis is still the same. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's gone. I think it also makes us a lot lazier. So I've sat in company meetings where the guy's gone, well, we only got 4 leads in today. So what do you do for the rest of the time? We just wait for the leads to turn up?
Yeah, just keep refreshing.
Why don't you do something? Yeah. So you can't have it both ways. And we're not we've created this environment now that, picking up the phone and ringing somebody is not the norm.
Yeah, it's almost the last thing.
A
lot of Zillennials and Gen Z, it's the last thing that they want to do, right?
They'd rather
shoot a text or a voice note.
Yeah, but that's because that's what they're being told. It's like everything else. We still have people who walk into the day one into an office and they get told this is how the job is done, right? You get on the phones, right? There's still recruitment companies that do that, and funnily enough, they're the same generation and they're quite happy making the phone calls.
And you think that's down to the fact?
Well, it's down to the environment, the culture that you create.
Okay, yeah. And do you not think that culture can be created in a remote way then?
It can be created, but what I'm saying is the remote is very different. Because look, if you're sitting next to me and I've been making phone calls for the last 30 years, right? You may or may not learn something from me.
Oh, of course you can.
But if you're sitting on your own making those calls, what are you going to learn? You're going to learn only by making the mistakes, and I can help you maybe not make... what I could make you do is make less mistakes, right? And that's kind of learning on the job. That I don't think happens now. Should happen. It's easy to happen with tech. If you're going to make phone calls, I can plug into your phone calls and all that kind of stuff. But do people do that? The answer is no.
No.
And the cultural piece of the energy in a room or an energy in a business, which you can't put your finger on it, but you walk into an office and you feel that buzz, right? How do you get that? How do you get that on a Zoom call with 30 people on it?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, in that model you described, that sort of remote environment, if you've got a bunch of professionals that are together that are more experienced and senior, and there's no sort of like junior level to learn from, and they're all quite established in how they make those conversations, how they have those approaches, would that fit that format now, because then you're not having really those. You don't really have to have those sort of mentor relationships.
Yeah, but you're making an assumption that you stop learning at some point.
That's true.
Right? I'm still learning. I still go to meetings and somebody says something. Oh, bloody hell!
Oh, fucking that's good. Yeah, I like
That's a really good idea. I never even thought about that. That's a fair point. So I mean, if you think you know everything, then yeah, you don't need that. But it's the juxtaposition of where you started, which is, if I've got 10 years experience and I'm doing what I've always been doing, I'm not learning any of the modern stuff then either.
No.
Right? So the new guy who comes in and says, well, actually, you haven't got a clue, mate.
Yeah, what do you mean you're still using that?
You're still using that. We use this, and you think, oh, God, never thought about that.
Yeah.
So when you create an environment in any business, there's an element of energy, right? And that energy is about people kind of sharing that knowledge together to win. And it shouldn't be a solo effort, right? That's why you go and do it as a business. So for me, it's kind of learning is constant. So yeah, that's how I would deal with that one.
I just wanted to know if you just thought it was that sort of, junior to senior, so it's like they kind of like help them get through those like
the early teething issues, because
but that makes sense. I think wisdom's to be shared and experience.
Nobody has a monopoly on wisdom.
Yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
No one has a monopoly on wisdom, right? And the only way you learn is by making mistakes. So Oscar Wilde's one is, experience is just another word for your mistakes, right? Mm-hmm. So experience is what gets you to do certain things, right? But it's a constant. You're making mistakes every day. If you're not, wow, well done. But if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn. If you don't learn, you don't grow. If you don't grow, why bother?
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. That's the soundbite for the episode.
Yeah. Okay. And so, do you not? Is there a way that the recruitment businesses then can? Because look, the benefits of having being able to be a remote workforce are obvious.
They're obvious. There's some great ones. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get some great talent that they don't have to be within a 40-mile radius of where your office is, and so on and so forth. So how do you strike that balance then? Or is there a balance to be?
It's a really difficult. I mean, I don't have the answer, right? I mean, smarter people than me are kind of working out, trying to work that out. Yeah. I think there's definitely a balance to be had somewhere. I'm not sure what that balance is. Even big companies are kind of going, right, we want everybody back into the office 4 days a week. Is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. Are people more productive, less productive? I don't know. Evidence is there for both.
Yeah.
Right. But it is a challenge.
There are people who will take advantage of either system, right? Whether they're in the office or whether they're
the issue for me is this. You get paid for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Right? Which is 50 hours a week, which is 200 hours a month, which is 2,400 hours in a year. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? What are you doing in that period of time? And who pushes you? Who motivates you to get more out of that time or do better in that time, right? So if you can do 100 press-ups and push-ups or whatever it is in 5 minutes, and you can do it easily, is that fantastic? The answer is no. The answer is, can you do more in that same period of time? But if nobody's pushing you to do it, then what is the likelihood that you're going to put yourself through that? And that's kind of like the energy piece within a business, right? Pushing yourself to get better at something and then having the satisfaction of doing it and going, wow, I actually managed to do that. So the remote piece, I don't have a for or against. I'm just saying that is a big challenge for leadership today in big businesses and even in small businesses, because people say, well, I'm not going to join you unless I'm remote 4 days a week, So there's a balancing act, but it is definitely one of the big challenges for any sales environment, I think. But for recruitment, where basically we're a sales business, I think it's a very tough challenge. And I haven't I haven't got an answer for you, but you asked the question, what's going on? That's one of the
that's
things.
What's happening.
That's definitely one of the big ones.
That's a big contention.
And then I guess there's tech and the influence of tech in recruitment. We've got some great CRM systems now. We've got tech where you're talking to a candidate, and while you're talking to it transcribes your notes. I mean, I wish.
Yeah.
I just wish I'd had something like that, right? You're doing an interview and all the notes are written for you. It's like, wow, So, those two, the tech piece is obviously unlimited right now, and what influence it's going to have. But recruitment as a whole is probably still a dinosaur in comparison to a lot of other industries in terms of how much adaptation it's had with tech. We still do things pretty old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Will that change? Without question.
I think because the results have always been there, right? And so it's sort of why fix if it ain't broken kind of element.
Well, I don't think that's not necessarily the case. I think the thing is, look, set up a recruitment business. You need a computer and a desk. It's low common denominator to get in, and you can start making money. There is no drive then to go off and try and complicate your life with tech. Tech can make it easier. Tech can make it harder. But really, how much tech is being used at the big companies? If you look at an S3 or a Manpower or an Adecco, 3,600, 5,000 recruiters around the world. How much tech is there? If you look at it in comparison to other industries, how tech's involved, we still just do it to monitor our people. That's pretty much our tech. And yes, marketing, right? But from a day-to-day basis, if you went to an Adecco office or a Manpower or any of these big guys, how much tech is influencing what a recruiter does?
Right.
I would challenge you that it has not changed much in the last 10 years. You still go to boot camp, get trained, this is a job order, this is how you fund it, all that. How much tech has taken it in comparison to, let's say, the car industry?
Yeah.
Completely gone. It's a completely different ballgame.
So do you think that's because it's overcomplicating that process, or it's just because recruitment's been so antiquated for so long that it's just finally time to catch up?
I don't think it's antiquated. It's like, if you look at the recruitment companies in the world, majority of them are 10 to 15 man companies. They can't afford to spend huge amounts of money on tech. The really, really big guys, I don't think they're spending that kind of money on tech either. So there'll be there are some very interesting tech companies out there, or recruitment companies that have got tech pieces in there, which is brilliant. But as an industry, it's a very small percentage.
Yeah, the adoption of the recruitment tech that's out there is really from businesses who want to get a competitive edge, right? In some capacity.
In some capacity, but it's still a very small element of the recruitment business.
And do you think that will change
For
kind
sure.
of with how fast we're ramping up?
For sure. But we're not ramping up fast.
Well, the technology is.
Technology is, but we as a recruitment industry are not ramping up.
I've always said this on the podcast, exactly that. We're always the last to react. We're always kind of slow to sort of change and stuff.
I think because recruiters kind of sit back and think, well, my job's really simple. And it is, right? So why complicate it?
Yeah.
Why do I need all this very expensive tech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then is that why maybe in our industry, more than other industries, we have so many zombie companies, right? That just sort of keep kicking the can down the road, not realising that they're just not going anywhere.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that if they make money? If it makes money, right, it's the purpose of the exercise.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? I mean, not everybody wants to be, up there in big lights. Not everybody wants to be kind of, in a company where they've got 50 employees. There's some people that've got 10 employees. They all make money. They're happy. They're having a great time. Their clients love them. What's wrong with that?
Oh, no. Yeah.
I think it's super cool. And that's why I think this whole scale, exit, growth exercise, just to bring the conversation back, is all about why. Why do you want to do it? You can't answer the why. Don't do it.
And is there a better why than not? Or is that subjective?
It's super subjective. My view on it is, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Like
if
that.
you know where you're going, then it doesn't matter whether you go zigzaggy, right? But you're going to get there.
There's a crow fly.
You might get there straight, but if you don't know where you're going, then keep driving. Just go wherever you like.
Yeah.
So the why is definitely subjective. You've got to get up in the morning and you've got to want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get up in the morning and be up for the fight. You've got to kind of, when it's never smooth. So when the tough times come, you kind of wake up in the morning and go, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's a fairly important part of being that entrepreneur, or being focused and knowing why you want to do this thing that you set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. Brilliant. Right. Well, look, this is your chance to plug anything you've got going on, any books you've got coming out, any tours that you're doing, whatever. Yeah.
Not a chance.
No? Okay.
No,
what are you up
chance.
to at the minute then?
So
For those
I
who are wondering,
sit on the board of the largest recruitment company in Romania, which is a company called Lugera. It's a super cool business. Does everything from temp, outsourcing, perm, contract, and proper outsourcing, like as in the whole business function outsource. I sit on the board of Auman International, which is an EOR business. For those of you who don't know what EOR is, it's employer of record. So it is a compliant way to hire people internationally without creating a legal entity. Lots of recruitment companies use it. Lots of recruitment companies haven't got a clue what it is, but they should use it. That's what I'm doing. But I'm not writing a book.
No?
Not
Brilliant.
a chance.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Are you still involved in RE still or not?
No, we've got, I stepped down, almost 2 years ago. I sat on the board for 9 months to kind of have the transition handover, but now I have nothing with them, nothing to do with them. Apart from obviously I know all the guys there and keep in touch and all that kind of stuff, but officially nothing.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Brilliant. One last question for me,
Sure.
and we might have to cut this bit.
Yeah.
What do you make of Gary Goldsmith going on Celebrity Big Brother?
I'm not going to say anything on record.
No, look, appreciate that.
You switch it off and I'll tell you.